لأعذبنه عذابا شديدا أو لأذبحنه أو ليأتيني بسلطان مبين.
I will inflict a severe punishment on him, or maybe even slaughter him unless he comes forth with a convincing reason for his absence.
28. Some people of the modern time say that the hudhud, hoopoe, does not mean the bird commonly known by this name, but is the name of a man who was an officer in the army of Solomon. This claim is not based on any historical research in which they might have found a person named Hudhud included in the list of the officers of the government of the Prophet Solomon, peace be upon him, but they base their claim on the argument that the custom of naming human beings after animals is prevalent in Arabic as in other languages and was also found in Hebrew. Moreover, the work that has been ascribed to the hudhud in the following verses and its conversation with the Prophet Solomon, peace be upon him, can, according to them, be only performed by a human being. But if one keeps in view the context in which this thing occurs in the Quran, it becomes evident that this is no commentary of the Quran but its distortion. After all, why should the Quran put the intellect and intelligence of man to the test by using enigmatic language? Why should it not clearly say that a soldier of the Prophet Solomon's, peace be upon him, cavalry, or platoon, or communication department, was missing, whom he ordered to be searched out, and who came and gave this news and whom he dispatched on such and such a mission? Instead, it uses such language that the reader, from the beginning to the end, is compelled to regard it as a bird. Let us, in this connection, consider the parts in their sequence as presented in the Quran. First of all, Prophet Solomon, peace be upon him, expresses his gratitude to Allah for this bounty. We have been taught the speech of the birds. In this sentence, firstly, the word tayr has been used absolutely, which every Arab and scholar of Arabic will take in the meaning of a bird, because there is nothing in the context that points to its being figurative. Secondly, if tayr implied a group of men and not a bird, the word language or tongue would have been used concerning it and not speech. Then, a person's knowing the tongue of another people is not so extraordinary a thing that it should be specially mentioned. Today there are among us thousands of men and women, who can speak and understand many foreign languages. This is in no way an unusual achievement which may be mentioned as an extraordinary gift of God. Then the Quran says, for Solomon, peace be upon him, were gathered hosts of jinns and birds. In this sentence, firstly, the words jinn and ins, men, and tayr have been used as names for three well-known and distinct species denoted by these words in Arabic. Then they have been used absolutely, and there is nothing in the context that may point to any of them being used metaphorically, or as a simile, because of which one may take them in another meaning than their well-known lexical meaning. Then the word ins has occurred between the words jinn and tayr, which does not allow taking it in the meaning that the jinn and the tayr were, intact, two groups included in the species of ins, men. Had this been meant, the words would have been, ul jinn wat tayr min al ins and not min al jinn wal ins wat tayr. A little further on, the Quran says that the Prophet Solomon, peace be upon him, said this when during his review of the birds he found the hudhud missing. If the tayr were human beings and hudhud also was the name of a man, a word or two should have been there to indicate this so that the poor reader should not have taken the word for a bird. When the group being mentioned is clearly of the birds and a member of it is called hudhud, how can it be expected that the reader will of his own accord understand them to be human beings? Then the Prophet Solomon, peace be upon him, says, I will punish him severely, or even slaughter him, unless he presents before me a reasonable excuse. A man is killed, or hanged, or sentenced to death, but never slaughtered. Some hard-hearted person may even slaughter another person out of vengeance, but it cannot be expected of a prophet, peace be upon him, that he would sentence a soldier of his army to be slaughtered only for the offense of desertion, and Allah would mention this heinous act of the Prophet, peace be upon him, without a word of disapproval. A little further on, we shall again see that the Prophet Solomon, peace be upon him, sends the same hudhud with a letter to the Queen of Sheba and tells him to cast it before her. Obviously, such an instruction can be given to a bird but not at all to a man when he is sent as an envoy or messenger. Only a foolish person will believe that a king would send his envoy with a letter to the queen of another country and tell him to cast or throw it before her. Should we suppose that the Prophet Solomon, peace be upon him, was not aware of the preliminary social etiquette which even common people like us also observe when we send our servant to a neighbor? Will a gentleman tell his servant to carry his letter to the other gentleman and throw it before him? All these things show that the word hudhud here has been used in its lexical meaning, showing that he was not a man but a bird. Now, if a person is not prepared to believe that a hudhud can speak those things that have been ascribed to it in the Quran, he should frankly say that he does not believe in this narrative of the Quran. It is sheer hypocrisy to misconstrue plain and clear words of the Quran according to one's own whims only in order to cover up one's lack of faith in it.
فمكث غير بعيد فقال أحطت بما لم تحط به وجئتك من سبأ بنبأ يقين.
Not before long, the hoopoe came up and said, I have obtained a knowledge which you could not. I have brought for you sure news about Sheba.
29. Sheba were a well-known commercial people of southern Arabia, whose capital city of Marib lay about 55 miles to the northeast of Sana'a, the present capital of Yemen. They rose to power after the decline of the Minian kingdom in about 1100 BC. And flourished for 1,000 years in Arabia. Then in 115 BC, they were replaced by the Himyarites, the other well-known people of southern Arabia, who ruled Yemen and Hadramaut in Arabia and Habash in Africa. The Sabians controlled the whole trade that passed between Eastern Africa, India, the Far East and Arabia, as well as Egypt, Syria, Greece and Rome. That is why they were famous for their wealth in the ancient times, so much so that according to the Greek historians they were the richest people of the world. Besides trade and commerce, another great reason for their prosperity was that they had built dams here and there in their country to store rainwater for irrigation purposes, which had turned their whole land into a veritable garden. The Greek historians have made mention of the unusual greenery of their country, and the Quran also refers to it in Surah Saba, Ayat 15. The statement of the hudhud, I have obtained knowledge of things of which you have no knowledge, does not imply that the Prophet Solomon, peace be upon him, was wholly unaware of Saba. Obviously, the ruler of Syria and Palestine whose kingdom extended to the northern shores of the Red Sea, Gulf of Aqaba, could not be unaware of a people who ruled the southern shores, Yemen, of the same Red Sea, and who also controlled an important pan of the international trade. Moreover, according to Psalms, Solomon's father, Prophet David, peace be upon them, knew Saba. We find the following words of his prayer in Psalms, Give the king thy judgment, O God, and thy righteousness unto the king's son, i.e. Solomon. The kings of Tarshish and of the isles shall bring presents, the kings of Sheba and Seba, i.e. of Yamans and Habashas. Ranchers shall offer gifts. Therefore, what the hudhud means to say is this: the knowledge of the things I have seen with my eyes in the central city of the Sabians has not yet reached you.
إني وجدت امرأة تملكهم وأوتيت من كل شيء ولها عرش عظيم.
I found there a woman ruling over them, one who has been endowed with all things, and has a mighty throne.
وجدتها وقومها يسجدون للشمس من دون الله وزين لهم الشيطان أعمالهم فصدهم عن السبيل فهم لا يهتدون.
I found that she and her people prostrate themselves before the sun rather than Allah. Satan has made their deeds appear attractive to them, and has thus debarred them from the right path, so they do not find true guidance.
30. This shows that the people of Saba at that time followed the religion of sun worship, which is also supported by the ancient traditions of Arabia. Ibn Ishaq has cited the genealogist saying to the effect that Saba have in fact descended from an ancestor whose name was Abd Shams, slave of the sun, or sun worshipper, and titled Saba. This is supported by the Israelite traditions as well. According to these, when the hudhud arrived with the Prophet Solomon's, peace be upon him, letter, the queen of Sheba was going for the worship of the sun god, and it threw the letter on the way before the queen. 31. The style shows that the sentences from here to the end of the paragraph are not a part of the Hudhud speech, but its speech ended with, "They prostrate themselves before the sun," and these words are an addition by Allah to its speech. His opinion is supported by the sentence, "He knows all that you conceal and reveal." These words give the impression that the speaker and the addressees here are not the Hudhud and the Prophet Solomon, peace be upon him, and his courtiers respectively, but the speaker is Allah and the addressees the mushriks of Makkah, for whose admonition this story has been related. From among the commentators, Allama Alusi, the author of Ruh al-Mani, also has preferred the same opinion. 32. That is, Satan has made them believe that earning the worldly wealth and making their lives more and more grand and pompous is the only real and best use of their mental and intellectual and physical powers. Apart from these, they need not think seriously of anything else. They need not bother themselves to see whether there was any factual reality behind the apparent life of the world or not. And whether the basis of their religion, morality, culture and system of life accorded with that reality or went utterly against it. Satan satisfied them that when they were making adequate progress in respect of wealth and power and worldly grandeur, they had no need to see whether their beliefs and philosophies and theories were correct or not, for the only proof of their being correct was that they were earning wealth and enjoying life to their heart's content.
أَلَّا يَسْجُدُوا لِلَّهِ الَّذِي يُخْرِجُ الْخَبْءَ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَيَعْلَمُ مَا تُخْفُونَ وَمَا تُعْلِنُونَ.
That they would prostrate themselves before Allah, who brings to light all that is hidden in the heavens and the earth, and knows all that you conceal and all that you reveal.
33. That is, He is bringing continuously into existence those things which before their birth were hidden. Here and there, He is bringing out continuously countless kinds of vegetation and minerals from the bowels of the earth. He is manifesting from upper space such things as could not even be conceived by the human mind before their manifestation. 34. That is, His knowledge embraces everything, the open and hidden are alike for Him. He is aware of everything. By citing these two attributes of Allah, the object is to impress that if they had not been deluded by Satan, they could have seen the right way clearly. They could have perceived that the hot burning sphere of the sun, which has no sense of its own existence, did not deserve to be worshipped, but worship was due to Him alone, who is the all-knowing and the all-wise being, and whose power is bringing into existence new and ever new phenomena every moment.
الله لا إله إلا هو رب العرش العظيم.
All that you reveal.
الله لا إله إلا هو رب العرش العظيم.
Allah, none is worthy of worship save He. He is the Lord of the mighty throne.
35. This is one of the verses of the Quran, where its recital makes it obligatory to perform a sajda, prostration, and there is a consensus on this of the Muslim jurists. The object of performing a sajda here is that a believer should set himself apart from the sun worshippers and should declare by his action that he does not regard the sun but Allah Almighty alone as his deity and Lord.
قال سننظر أصدقت أم كنت من الكاذبين.
Solomon, peace be upon him, said, "Soon shall we see whether you have spoken the truth or are one of those that lie."
اذهب بكتابي هذا فألقه إليهم ثم تول عنهم فانظر ماذا يرجعون.
Take this letter of mine, deliver it to them, and then draw back from them, and observe what they do.
36. Here ends the role of the hudhud, hoopoe. The rationalists deny its being a bird for the reason that a bird could not possibly be endowed with such powers of observation, discrimination and expression that it should pass over a country and should come to know that it is the land of Saba, it has such and such a system of government, it is ruled by a certain woman, its religion is sun worship, that it should have worshipped one god instead of having gone astray, and then on its return to the Prophet Solomon, peace be upon him, it should so clearly make a report of all its observations before him. Due to these very reasons the open atheists object that the Quran is a book of fables and legends. Then those who try to interpret the Quran rationally misconstrue its clear words in order to prove that the hudhud was not at all a bird but he was a man. But the question is, what scientific information do these people have by which they could tell, with absolute certainty, what powers and abilities do the different species of animals and their different individuals have? The information that they possess only consists of the results inferred from the grossly insufficient observation made by them of the life and behavior of the animals. In fact, man has not so far been able to know through any certain means what different animals know and what they see and hear, and what they feel and think and understand, and how the mind of each one of them works. Yet, whatever little observation has been made of the life of the different species of animals, it has revealed some of their wonderful abilities. Now, when Allah, who is the creator of these animals, tells us that he had taught the speech of the birds to one of his prophets and blessed him with the ability to speak to them, and the prophet's taming and training had so enabled a hudhud that it could make certain observations in the foreign lands and could report that to the prophet, we should in fact, be prepared to revise our little knowledge about the animals in the light of Allah's statement. But, instead, we commit the folly of taking our insufficient knowledge as the criterion and belie this statement of Allah or distort it out of its true meaning.
قالت يا أيها الملأ إني ألقي إلي كتاب كريم.
The queen said, "Know, my nobles, that a gracious letter has been delivered to me." The queen said, the story now resumes from the point where the hoopoe had dropped the letter in front of the queen.
إنه من سليمان وإنه بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
It is from Solomon. It is in the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate.
ألا تعلوا علي وأتوني مسلمين.
It says, "Do not act towards me with defiance, but come to me in submission."
37. That is, the letter is important for several reasons. 1. It has reached me in an unusual way. Instead of an envoy, it has been brought and dropped at me by a bird. 2. It is from Solomon, the great ruler of Palestine and Syria. 3. It begins with the name of Allah, the Compassionate and Merciful, which is an unusual way of correspondence and is not followed by any kingdom in the world. 4. Then, it is also unusual that a letter should be written only in the name of Allah, the Exalted, spare from all other gods and goddesses. 5. The most important thing in it is that it quite clearly and plainly invites us to give up rebellion and adopt obedience and present ourselves before Solomon in submission, or as Muslims. Come to me in submission can have two meanings. 1. Present yourselves in submission, and 2. Present yourselves as Muslims, after embracing Islam. The first meaning is in accordance with the Prophet Solomon's, peace be upon him, position as a ruler, and the second with his position as a prophet. Probably this comprehensive word was used in order to convey both the meanings through the letter. The same sort of invitation has always been extended by Islam to independent nations and governments that they should either accept Islam and become equal partners in the Islamic system of life, or surrender political independence and submit to the system of Islam and pay jizya.
قالت يا أيها الملأ أفتوني في أمري ما كنت قاطعة أمرا حتى تشهدون.
After reading the letter, the queen said, "Nobles, let me have your counsel in this matter, for I make no firm decision without you."
38. The words used in the text are, hatta tashhudan, until you are present, or unless you bear witness. That is, I regard your presence necessary when I take a decision in important matters, and also that whatever decision I take you should be there to testify that it is right and correct. This shows that though the system of government among Sabah was kingship, it was not tyrannical, but the ruler of the time decided matters in consultation with the important people in the government.
قالوا نحن أولو قوة وأولو بأس شديد والأمر إليك فانظري ماذا تأمرين.
They said, "We are strong and are given to vehement fighting, but the decision is yours. Therefore, consider what you would like to command."
قالت إن الملوك إذا دخلوا قرية أفسدوها وجعلوا أعزة أهلها أذلة وكذلك يفعلون.
The queen said, "When the kings enter a country, they cause corruption in it, and abase those of its people who are held in honor. This is what they are wont to do."
39. In this one sentence a thorough criticism has been made of imperialism. The king's invasion of the other countries and the victorious nations' violence against the oppressed nations has never been for the sake of reform and goodwill. The object has been to control and exploit the means and resources of sustenance granted to the other nation by God, and make it so helpless that it should never be able to rise in resistance and demand its share. For this purpose they block up all its means of prosperity, power and honor, crush down all self-respecting elements, instill in its members attitudes of slavery, flattery, treachery and spying against one another, imitation of the conqueror and respect for his civilization, contempt of their own civilization and other such mean qualities of character. Thus, gradually they bring them down to such a low level of character where they may not hesitate even to sell off any of their most sacred objects of heritage and be ready to perform any wretched service on payment. 40. This sentence has two meanings and both are equally probable. Sad face. 1. It may be a part of the Queen of Sheba's speech, which she might have added in order to emphasize her foregoing words, and 2. It may be Allah's words which have been added as a parenthesis in support of the Queen's speech.